G'day, Nick from AustralianNativeBee.com. Today's episode is on how you can build a solitary bee hotel at your home. I'll take you through how I like to build my hotels in a time-lapse video. I'll build one or a couple of them, and the reason why I'm doing this video is everybody is worried about the decline of bees, honeybees in particular, but nobody's really thinking about our solitary bees. We have about 20,000 bee species worldwide, and in the last 50 years we've seen a huge decline in those solitary bees, especially around agricultural areas. Some of those species we've seen a 96% decrease in them, so it's a really concerning thing. So yeah, today's episode is going to be on how you can build a solitary bee hotel and encourage those bees to your garden so that you can help with providing nesting places for those bees. What I'm doing here is cutting up a bunch of marine ply. I like to build my solitary bee hotels as a box with a hardwood face. And the box, I'm using marine ply for its weathering properties. If you're going to build one of these, you want it to last, and I see a lot of bee hotels that are just made of pine or things that are just going to fall apart. So I like to have a box with a hardwood face on it, and there's no real size that you have to build that, so that's why I'm not putting dimensions in here. Just showing you the process of how to build one of these. After your boxes are done and glued together, I'm gluing and nailing them. I'm using a polyurethane glue, which polyurethanes aren't the most environmentally friendly, but they certainly last a long time. And once the glue is hard set, it's pretty safe for the bees. This is the hardwood face that I'm running through and thicknessing it to the correct size so that it fits nicely in the face of the box. It's a very nice hardwood. The hardwood I'm using here is 45 millimeters thick, and I'm just cutting it to size to fit in the boxes now. I'll be gluing and nailing that. When you shoot your nails in, make sure, or your screws, make sure they're in the very corners, because later when you drill holes through, you don't want to be drilling through screws or nails, so make sure they're situated in the corners. So the next thing I'm going to do after these are all nailed in is I'm going to cut pine blocks to sit in the cavity behind the hardwood. This is untreated pine. You don't want any yucky treatment in your bee hotels because that will kill your bees. So I'm gluing a series of these blocks in, and that provides a nice warm area for the bees to nest. This is the fun bit, but it's also an arduous job drilling all these holes into your box. There's probably 200, 300 holes that I'll be drilling into each one of these boxes. And I start with an 8mm bit and I drill the 4 corners and then infill sort of randomly. After the 8mm drill bit is done, I swap to the 10 and I infill in between the 8mm holes. You want them very close, so wherever there's a gap, drill your hole in between. 8 and 10mm are the two sizes that I love for resin and leafcutter bees. Because that's what they prefer. So that's what I'm doing, just those two sizes here. Next I'll be using a conical countersink bit, and I'll be driving that in so that the countersink touches on the edge of other countersunk holes. And this just gives the face a really, really nice look when you're done. You want your hotel to look nice because you're going to be out there looking at it all the time. So spend the time making sure it's nice. Next you want to cut a nice little roof. This one's cut to 30 degrees on the angle, and I'm just using little stainless steel screws and glue to fix these roofs on. You may notice the little air gap under the roof. Now that as well as being an air gap, is also so that you can jam bamboo and other sticks in there for other insects to live in. Here I'm drilling little holes in the back so that you can hang your hotel off a screw or a like. And here I'm blowing out all the holes. I want to get all that dust out of there. I'm using a compressor and air to do that. If you don't have a compressor, just use a hammer and tap it on the back. You'll see all the dust fall out of the holes. Ready for the bees to move in. I'm using a marine varnish on the roof for longevity, and later I will be oiling the box part or the lower part of the solitary bee hotels. Finally, before oiling, make sure you're using an environmentally friendly oil or a very light oil and give it time to dry before setting it out for the bees. This is what your solitary bee hotels will look like when they're done. One final tip, I guess I might add, I figured this out a few years ago, and that is to pour refined stingless beeswax all over the front and in the holes of your solitary bee hotel. And what this does is that brings the resin bees in, and while they're collecting the resin, they realize, hey, this is a good place to nest. Once they start nesting, other solitary bees come along and start nesting, and in no time at all you will have lots and lots of solitary bees nesting in your bee hotel. Here's what you can expect after a year or two. Lots and lots of holes filled, bees hatching out, new bees moving in.